Selected 1. Over you, there was a heated dispute. So hot that your genuine identity was ultimately revealed to everyone in the room. Entire circles have been falling apart while you were keeping your peace, because someone's fascination with you was revealed. But everything spilled as the quarrel broke out. Deception, deceit, and envy. You were the revelation, but they believed you were a test. No one was studying you. The truth was being activated by you. What they intended to embarrass you ended up confirming it. The norms of engagement were entirely rewritten as you underwent an interior metamorphosis while your outward actions were being examined. You did not retreat during your recent time of selected isolation. From places of superficial awareness, it was preparation for a level of power that was impossible to understand. You were advancing in dimensions that most people aren't even aware exist. You were reaching frequencies that would render you untouchable in every meditation that was written off as escapism. You were constructing spiritual armor that would repel the most effective manipulations like rains off steel, and any barrier was seen as a sign of weakness. Each time you opted for isolation over the circus, you were building up the energy that would ultimately blow up the whole thing without you having to do anything. Someone really mentioned how you had changed during the heated disagreement. You used to be more approachable, gregarious, and eager to participate in group dynamics, to share the love of the angels, right? Amen, and contribute up to $20 with a super thank you. This was meant to serve as proof that you were becoming more and more alone. However, another individual in the room had a different perspective. You weren't alone. You were now strong, deliberate, and selective. One of the main points of dispute throughout the conversation was the distinction between purposeful solitude and isolation. The puppeteer intended for you to seem alone, isolated, and making decisions based on limited resources. However, the reality that emerged in that room gave a very different impression. You weren't alone. You were shielded, safe, and above the chaos that everyone else was surrounded by. The puppet master saw what seemed to be the ideal chance to test predictions about your predictability. It was discovered that you were going to meet someone extraordinary, someone whose energy profile corresponded with the frequency that your spiritual practice had been bringing in. This relationship has the capacity to improve all facets of your life and to provide collaboration that would increase your already powerful position to the point where it might completely transform whole sectors. In warped reasoning, however, your enjoyment is a danger. There is a growing conviction that your success would undermine their reputation, that your happiness would throw a shadow over their accomplishments, that your real success would reveal the phoniness of their fabricated power. Under the cover of introduction, the intervention's orchestration started. The hubris of the concept was astounding. Positioning took the form of a kind matchmaker who would save you from making a grave error and guide you away from true connection in favor of someone more suited for the story. Not only was the alternative insufficient, it was deliberately picked to darken your light, to produce drama rather than harmony, to amuse gossip councils rather than uplift your spirit. It was to see you suffer, seeing you at last give in to the unachievably lofty expectations that everyone talks about. Evidence indicating you may be coerced into making settlement. Instead, they got a spiritual discernment masterclass that would become famous in circles no one knew you were associated with. Someone disclosed during the debate that there had been genuine forecasts on the time it would take for you to approve the selected applicant. There were deadlines, benchmarks you were supposed to reach, and times when your resistance was supposed to wane. All the details had been computed. All but one possible objection had been foreseen. No one expected you to see right through everything at once and go without saying anything. Something amazing occurred when the meticulously prepared alternative eventually came into your circle, revealing the entire extent of your metamorphosis. Like a spiritual fire alarm, the intuitive warning system you had been cultivating through prolonged introspection sprang to life. Ignoring the signals would have required total betrayal of your true nature, since they were so obvious and urgent. The offer was packaged to appeal to someone who was misunderstood as predictable and in need of outside approval. The version of you that was believed to be understood ought to have found it impossible to resist. The person who would put short-term satisfaction ahead of long-term contentment and social approval ahead of spiritual connection. Own knowledge above the approval of others. However, you saw more than just surface presentation when you gazed at the glittering trap. Underneath, you saw the electromagnetic signature, faint vibrations that spoke of transaction rather than connection, of convenience rather than chemistry, of someone who would see your heart as a road rather than a haven. Your spiritual antenna detected broadcast frequencies that others were unaware existed. The fact that you didn't have to defend yourself to anybody added to the impact of this moment. You didn't have to write a dissertation explaining why you turned down what was deemed to be the ideal match. Your number was complete. To share the love of the angels, write amen, and contribute up to $20 with a super thank you. Your choice was final. Your intuition was sufficient. The puppet master was frightened by that degree of self-authority as it demonstrated the true lack of control. It wasn't only rejection in your reaction. After acknowledgement, prompt precautionary action was taken. Your choice was so abrupt and decisive that it rocked the whole business. There was no hesitancy, no second-guessing, no need to learn more or consult other people. You just answered with decisive force that reshapes reality around its manifestation because you recognized the truth in what was being provided. You left without turning around. That little act of speaking the truth set off a chain reaction that no one anticipated. You were busy being knowledgeable, while others were busy being smart. You were developing spiritual awareness that functions beyond understanding, while complex strategies were being hatched. You didn't just turn down the trap. By showing what true power looks like, you exposed it. Someone actually questioned the puppet master personally during the heated conversation. Why did you believe you were more knowledgeable than this individual about what was required? Why did you have the right to meddle in another person's life? Who made you the protector of another person's love life? Like accusations, these questions lingered in the air. The foolishness of what had been tried was beginning to sink in for everyone in that room. In that instant, your identity as a chosen one became indisputable. Your acts showed a level of spiritual maturity and self-possession that ordinary awareness cannot duplicate, not because anybody made an announcement. In that space, people began to make connections between previously unnoticed details. Your composure in the face of pandemonium, your clarity in the face of misunderstanding, and your strength when others faltered. If this video resonated with you, please share it so that other people who are selected may hear it. In an unusual situation, the puppeteer had to explain to the expectant audience why the perfectly anticipated result had failed so horribly. At what was meant to be a celebratory meeting, a gathering when the ideal plan for your demise would be disclosed, and you would be positioned as a wise prophet who saw it coming, pressure started to mount. Rather, those who had put social capital in projections now sought answers, which led to more awkward questioning. Why didn't you fall for the bait that seemed so appropriate for your situation? How did you spot tricks that tricked individuals who thought you were more smarter? Who has the clarity to turn off possibilities that others would go to great lengths to acquire? The inquiries, which were never intended to contain the energy of sincere inquiry combined with mounting skepticism, proliferated like pressure cracks in a dam. The carefully crafted authority started to crumble with every query. Knowing smirks turned to anxious stammering. Confident forecasts became to defensive justifications. The group watched as a person who presented themselves as a master manipulator showed that they had little knowledge of the subject of their obsession. However, it was when someone brought out the obvious that the conversation really heated up. Why did each and every forecast fail if there was genuine comprehension, genuine insights into your mind, and genuine ability to anticipate behavior? Right, men, to feel the peace of the angels and show your support with a super thank you up to $20. Why did you do exactly the opposite of what you were supposed to do? Instead of applauding alleged strategic genius, why was someone standing there offering excuses? This has nothing to do with wrongdoing. The whole foundation for comprehending human behavior fell apart because you were so far ahead of where others believed you to be. They had played checkers. You had reached a level of play that was incomprehensible. It was beginning to dawn on everyone in that room. It was indeed uttered aloud by someone in the room. Perhaps this individual has been undervalued all along. Perhaps because a totally new game is being played, movements cannot be expected. Perhaps what was seen as obstinacy is really strength. It is possible that spiritual discernment is what was referred to as unreasonable standards. Perhaps everything has gone wrong. The air changed. Those who had been dozing along began to recline in their seats. Eyes squinted, arms crossed. The group vibe changed from awe to distrust. What else might have gone wrong if this individual had been so utterly mistaken about you? What other forecasts had been made that were really only efforts at deception masquerading as wisdom? The actual explosion occurred at that time. The house of cards started to tumble spectacularly at that point, and you weren't even there when you were validated. Because that is what chosen ones do. You were out enjoying your best life, totally unaffected by the tumult around your name. People who never had any control over us in the first place do not wait around for us to validate them, to share the love of the angels, right? Amen, and contribute up to $20 with a super thank you. Then came a realization that, when fully understood, sends a shockwave through your neurological system. Someone who had been nodding along with character assassination for a long time, one of the most trusted confidants, had their own epiphany. This somebody got up in the midst of a particularly savage analysis of your options and said something that would blow apart a whole social structure. What precisely is being stated about each of us when we leave these meetings if this is the method used to examine and assess someone who isn't even there to defend themselves? The ensuing quiet was the kind that comes before revolutions and avalanches. The moment when everyone is enjoying the view and simultaneously realizes that dancing has been taking place on the brink of a precipice. The rapid and complete change in power dynamics that followed was nothing short of astonishing. Everyone in the group realized at once that participation had not been a part of advanced social analysis. It had been a performance in someone else's manipulative theater. Every moment of trust that was given, every weakness that was disclosed, and every confidence that was expressed were now made public as possible targets for character assassinations in the future. The heated dispute that broke out was no longer only about you. It concerned the basic breach of trust that happens when someone gathers private information, such as a weapons cache, under the guise of friendship and support. They raised their voices. Like arrows finding their targets, accusations flew. A thunderous stream of righteous fury poured out of long years of repressed intuitions concerning this person's actual character. That was not the end of the defector. Speaking on, the voice becoming louder with each syllable, discussing this individual for long stretches of time, evaluating options, forecasting the future, and evaluating standards. However, has anybody seen that real prospering is taking place? That there appears to be more tranquility than any of us have? That as we sit around discussing why failure will occur, things are being done? When did this investment lead to the demise of someone else? That we cease to focus on our personal life. People began talking about their own experiences. Words seemed distorted at times. Private talks were made public, and suspicions that information was being used as a weapon surfaced. Because everything in the social manipulation economy was worth money, the puppet master had created an atmosphere in which trust was impossible. The foreshadowing comes in handy here. Recall how you sensed something wasn't quite right, but couldn't quite put your finger on it. Recall how, despite everyone's accusations that you were being paranoid, you naturally began to distance yourself from certain social groups. You weren't becoming paranoid because of your spiritual insight. To share the love of the angels, right? Amen. And contribute up to $20 with a super thank you. It was keeping you from falling victim to another psychological warfare attack. When the puppet master defended matchmaking instincts, he disclosed details about the selected candidate that showed precisely why your spiritual warning system went off so quickly. It was discovered that the individual who was positioned as your perfect match had a tendency to approach relationships like business dealings, preserving a variety of amorous possibilities while guaranteeing each one exclusivity. manipulating emotions to take advantage of chances and resources from partners who thought they were really building something together. Every warning sign your intuition had picked up was now flashing in the middle of the day for everyone to examine and debate. No one in the room missed the lovely irony. Instead, it showed utter blindness to the character defects that render someone unfit for genuine connection, despite the frantic effort to exhibit better grasp of human nature. However, it gets much worse. It was not just manipulative and emotionally unavailable for the alternative to try to influence you in your direction. There was active participation in scams that anybody stupid enough to be caught up in would have faced legal and professional issues. Financial anomalies, ongoing legal disputes, and inquiries into professional misconduct. Your heart had been spared disappointment by your reluctance to participate. Your whole life had been protected from impurities that ruin reputations and ruin professions. At this moment, there was a genuine chuckle in the room, a sharp, acrid sound that broke the tension. It was said, "So, let me get this straight. You try to set this person up with someone being investigated, someone with a history of using people, someone who would have destroyed their reputation and honest belief existed? This was in their best interests. Or had the goal always been to destroy them?" That question hit like a ton of bricks. What had been concealed in plain sight suddenly became visible to everybody. Helping you was never the goal. This was done to cause you pain. Seeing you flourish in your sincerity was too much for the puppet master to bear. Therefore, it was decided to bring chaos under the appearance of romance. It was fun to see you battle relationship problems, seeing your standards being compromised, seeing your demise firsthand. The spiritual guiding system that forewarned you had been functioning with knowledge that was beyond the reach of your consciousness. However, your soul was discovered via channels that were beyond the realm of reason. This is real-time manifestation of heavenly protection. This is what happens when the cosmos supports you in ways that are beyond your current comprehension. Everyone in the room realized the full extent of what you had avoided. The puppet master was confronted with an unprecedented situation. A room full of individuals who realized that alleged superior understanding was really deep blindness disguised in fancy words. In the course of a single discussion, the reputation for strategic thinking and character evaluation that had been built over many years fell apart. You weren't fortunate. You were acting from a state of awareness that instinctively rejects everything that does not advance your best interests. That isn't a defensive mechanism. Dominance is that. That is your actual self-expression as a chosen one. You had something more trustworthy than rumors or counsel, so you didn't need anybody to warn you. You had a straight line of spiritual direction that never failed you. Let me now introduce you to something genuine, the motor of destiny. I created this because I was tired of seeing those who were selected be subjected to assaults, treachery, and isolation while their adversaries walked free. I want to assist you in stepping fully into your mission and accelerating the pace of your divine justice. Share the love of the angels. Write Amen and contribute up to $20 with a super thank you. The best part is that you don't even need to move. Destiny Engine turns their failure into your success. This isn't just another app for meditation. Declassified consciousness technology is what it is. The same mind programming techniques that your adversaries formerly used to create competitiveness, scarcity, and terror. Redesigned to match you with the cooperative, improved operational structure and reclaim your autonomy. It creates unique sequences that are aligned with your spiritual destiny. Putting on headphones, hitting play, and watching your opponents continue to dig their own graves is the hardest thing you will ever do. The group upgrade is in progress. Turn all they did to break you into fuel for your ascent by starting your Destiny Engine for only $1 now. The description contains a link. It was disclosed by someone that the puppet master had been fabricating tales about your financial circumstances and how your selective attitude to chances showed desperation masquerading as standards. You were portrayed as someone whose spiritual activities served as a means of escaping from hard reality and whose assurance was really a front for insecurity. The truth of these charges struck like lightning. Suddenly, A number of individuals in that room realized that they had been unknowingly spreading poison that was not known to be hazardous in their own circles by parsing these tales. Through professional networks, social events, and casual conversations, the puppet master's influence had proliferated like a virus, affecting how others saw you in ways that would have required a great deal of effort to reverse if you had been in a defensive posture. However, this is what brings a grin on your face. You were enjoying extraordinary growth in every sector that was allegedly hurting, while busy fabrications about your alleged troubles were being built. You weren't in a dire financial condition. In order to maximize independence and minimize commitment to systems that deplete real power, it was purposefully simplified. When someone produced a gadget and displayed recent proof of your real achievement, the commotion in that room became more intense. Professional accomplishments were inexplicably overlooked. Opportunities that had come to pass, projects that had begun, accolades you had earned. The difference between the story being told and your real life was so glaring that it was almost comical. How is all of this overlooked? Someone made a demand. How could someone be so preoccupied in foretelling disaster that they failed to perceive success? What is the implication for so-called insights? What is the credibility implication of that? The puppeteer was unable to respond. It was becoming hard to deny the fact. You had not been the subject of analysis. You had been the target of projections of anxieties and concerns. You weren't desperate. You were just choosy about possibilities. It was discerning mastery. Most individuals strive to grow throughout their lives. You could see manipulations clearly and react from a position of strength rather than reactivity, thanks to the spiritual pursuits that were derided as escapist. The circular structure is showing itself here. They are now being consumed by the havoc that was intended to be generated in your name. Their own demise is the one that was prophesied for you. Their current reality is the seclusion that was supposed to be their destiny. Poetry in action, the manifestation of divine justice. Everyone viewing will be unable to deny your genuine identify as someone under spiritual protection. The puppet master had been gathering information about your personal life through mutual acquaintances, creating detailed profiles of your preferences, patterns, and vulnerabilities, treating your life as a research project, and analyzing your reactions to different stimuli in order to predict and influence your future decisions with scientific accuracy, according to someone else who was emboldened by the atmosphere of truth-telling. Information about private discussions, private choices, and even spiritual experiences that are only shared with your closest confidants. This knowledge was turned into a thorough psychological manipulation plan that would have destroyed someone with a less stable base. People were really taken aback when this was revealed during the dispute. Someone had been taking real notes on your habits, tendencies, and behaviors. Who does that? Who would consider another human being to be a test subject? The creep factor was really high. It dawned on those who had assumed this was just harmless talk that they had been involved in something much more sinister. However, those that are selected don't function on shaky foundations that may be shattered by outside forces. No amount of information on your previous decisions could foretell your reaction once you reach this new stage of spiritual growth. Using blueprints for the person you had progressed beyond throughout the era of interchange, an attempt was made to influence someone who no longer existed. Then the most damning information was revealed. Someone directed toward you with real proof of the puppet master's collaboration with romantic options. Text messages, voice recordings, and thorough plans outlining how you would be approached, what you would say, and how you would present yourself to make the most impression on someone who fits your purported psychological profile. As passages were read aloud, every word was carefully chosen, every motion was synchronized, and every ostensibly spontaneous moment was pre-written. The audience became silent. Incompatibility was not the only thing your spiritual alarm system had picked up. At a level of sophistication that most humans would never have been able to penetrate, it had detected artificiality masquerading as authenticity. In fact, one of the voice recordings was requested to be heard. The pressure in that room was too great for the puppet master to reject. People heard guidance on how to mimic your communication style, coaching on what subjects to bring up, and techniques for fabricating a fake feeling of compatibility as it played. It was unsettling. It was planned. Everyone felt uneasy because it was so deceptive. A trap was constructed for a non-existent version of you. That's more than simply a win. Domination via evolution is what it is. It is the unavoidable manifestation of your actual identity as a chosen one. Although you were not aware of plans cognitively, you were fully safeguarded by the knowledge that your soul, spirit, and higher self had. Something lovely occurred when these conversations were shared with the gathering, demonstrating the ability of truth to turn even the most poisonous circumstances into chances for societal awakening. People started talking about how they had been manipulated by this individual. Instead of originating from real curiosity and caring, their own moments of feeling talks were being guided toward preset conclusions. A pattern of people who approached every relationship as if it were a game of chess, who gathered personal data like a strategist collecting intelligence, and who saw emotional intimacy as a weapon for advantage rather than a hallowed place for vulnerability and development arose. You weren't the only one the puppet master had chosen to manipulate. Everyone in orbit had been functioning in this manner, treating interpersonal relationships more like a resource to be exploited than a valued gift. One very moving moment was when someone said they felt like they were being tested all the time. Every discussion was examined, with words being examined for any flaws that may be exploited later. Another individual said that they had stopped talking about their personal issues because they felt that vulnerability was being listed rather than being accepted with empathy and encouragement. However, someone said something that caused everyone to stop talking. There was discussion about a time when the puppet master had been told something very private. Nobody else ever knew about it. In a short time, that material had been returned to them via a third party, distorted, and presented as proof of purported character defects. It had taken a long time to trust anybody again because of how thoroughly they had betrayed me. You had not only been safeguarded by your reluctance to participate in manipulation. Under the pretense of friendship and social connection, it has revealed a system of emotional exploitation. Even though everything was nicely wrapped, you could feel the poison being provided because you're a person who really functions from a higher spiritual vibration. You didn't need evidence. You didn't need proof. Your soul already knew, and you didn't need anybody to confirm it. A number of individuals were physically unwell when they realized how completely their trust had been betrayed and how shockingly it had been designed to do so. As individuals realized the ramifications of having private thoughts and conversations recorded by someone who had previously shown a propensity to use personal information as ammo, the vibe in the room changed from anger to something that was almost terrifying. Your name started to come up in these discussions as an example of someone who detected danger rather than as someone who was being judged. The others didn't make it. People began going over their encounters with you, understanding that what had been seen as aloofness was really spiritual discernment, shielding you from impurities that would have impaired your vision. In fact, someone apologized to you in person, speaking to your absence while standing in that room and apologizing for not trusting your gut. I apologize for taking part in rumors about you. I apologize for not realizing sooner that you weren't being challenging. You were smart. It had always been clear that you were a chosen one. It was only after the scales slipped away that others had the sight to see it. The societal destruction that ensued was as complete as you can imagine. Everyone in the group started to share stories of dubious encounters, odd demand for private information, and talks that seemed slightly off but were written off as overanalyzing. As individuals correlated patterns they had individually encountered to create a holistic image of someone who viewed human relationships like a laboratory for psychological experiments, the puppet master's whole operation came apart. Not only was the volume of the dispute that erupted tremendous, its total reformation of societal dynamics that had been meticulously crafted over long periods of time was revolutionary. As the exact network created to manipulate others turned on the creator in a rage of individuals who realized their status was never friends or colleagues, but rather subjects in an ongoing experiment in manipulation. Alliances changed, perceptions were clarified, and the puppet master found themselves totally alone. Observing how everyone instinctively gravitated toward genuine connection after removing false boundaries was the most fulfilling part of this social earthquake. For the first time in recent memory, people who had been set against one another by deliberately manipulated information started having real talks, finding out that alleged disputes had been fabricated by someone who profited from maintaining suspicion and division among all. Everything comes full circle with this resolve. The turmoil they tried to control around you turned into the chaos that engulfed them. Their own dramatic collapse was the sign of your impending doom. Their unavoidable reality was the seclusion that was supposed to be their fate. The natural results of their acts, not your words, had validated your genuine identity as someone walking in spiritual authority and divine protection. However, their demise is not the most lovely part of this denouement. It is what started to appear in your life as the universe scrambled to make room. They attempted to pollute by manipulation. Because of your unwavering standards and dedication to following your inner direction, you developed a magnetic field that started drawing in relationships and possibilities that match your true frequency rather than their skewed understanding of your requirements. The moment that was intended to bring you down turned into a time when you were elevated to new heights of respect and recognition. People in your professional network started contacting you with real prospects after hearing about your astute decision to stay out of situations that would have damaged rather than improved your reputation. You were seen as someone deserving of confidence and cooperation because of your capacity to remain composed and wise under duress. Some of the individuals who reached out were those who had heard the rumors and the predictions of your failure. But instead of believing the stories, they had observed your true course, seeing you prosper while rumors circulated, getting attention, and developing while others were busy making predictions about your downfall. Like moths to flame, these folks were attracted to your genuine power. More importantly, it was around this same time that the genuine connection you had been seeking via spiritual practice started to materialize. It came through organic synchronicity rather than artificial introduction. Instead of carrying any warning signals that would have triggered an intuitive alarm system, this individual resonated with frequencies that made it seem like they were returning home after a lengthy trip through unfamiliar country. It was amazing to see the difference between the real connection that came spontaneously and the fake one that was tried to be pushed onto you. Real chemistry, respect for one another, and real recognition are all that are needed. No coaching, manipulation, scripts, or techniques. Once you have the guts to turn down the fake, the universe is demonstrating what true alignment feels like. Your silently developed projects unexpectedly gained support. Your self-invested capital started to yield returns. Authentic relationships you had been building grew into partnerships that energized you instead of draining you. Exactly when wilting was supposed to be seen, everything you had been cultivating while others were occupied with chatting blossomed. Individuals who had previously been impartial spectators of the whole scenario began to take sides. When it was seen, your side recognized genuine power. It became clear that someone worth supporting was able to remain composed, clear-headed, and forward-moving even when aggressively undercut. Attracting those who acknowledged and valued your genuine identity as a chosen one was your actual calling. This encounter showed that you had become something far more powerful than a person who sometimes makes wise decisions as a result of your spiritual growth. You had transformed into a person whose sheer being in genuine harmony upends control and manipulative mechanisms, whose dedication to the truth has repercussions that reveal covert lies, who creates room for greater possibilities by refusing to play little games. You completely assert your position as the creator of your own destiny at the conclusion of the tale that started with someone else attempting to create your story. However, if you have a deeper grasp of what that authorship really means, you will see that every decision you make from true alignment sends signals across realms of reality that most people never see, drawing in what would maximize your power and pushing away what would weaken it. The heated dispute that broke out over you wasn't really about you. It was about the clash between real power and fake influence, between the old paradigm of control and the new awareness that defies control, between cunning manipulation and true knowledge. You were never a victim. You were an educator. The lesson was that those who were selected don't dance to music from this world. Your actual identity was made clear by indisputable proof rather than a grandiose declaration. You demonstrated what spiritual maturity looks like, how real power moves, and what it feels like to be protected by God. Because what you carry is not taught. Denial, manipulation, and duplication are impossible. It has woken up. People remember it. It is asserted. Your gut feelings are not recommendations to be taken into account. Your instincts are directives from your innermost self that you should follow without question. Lowering your standards for convenience is not acceptable. Your criteria act as filters to make sure that only deserving people may access your energy. It is not stubbornness to overcome your resistance to compromise. Your wisdom in refusing to settle shields you against relationships and chances that would lessen rather than enhance your divine essence. Remember that this is how things usually work for individuals like us, as you come to terms with the realization that mayhem was all around you while you were walking in calm. Simply by living in our truth, we inspire either elevation or destruction, causing emotions we never sought and reactions we never meant as we go through the world. The puppet masters will always come out of the shadows with the conviction that they can control our narrative. However, the fact that the selected ones do not react to manipulation is never taken into consideration. Truth elicits a response from us. The dispute is resolved. Now that the smoke has cleared, you are the winner. You didn't fight in a conflict that wasn't yours in the first place, nor because you did. The earthquakes that started this narrative have subsided and may now bear the weight of real connections, prosperity, and chances that serve your best benefit. Opportunities await you in the future that respect rather than contradict your actual character. People who see your worth without having to prove it. Relationships that increase your power without attempting to exert control over it. Chances to increase your impact without requiring you to sacrifice your morals. This is your prize for being honest when it was the most difficult thing you could have done. All attempts to stop you have been unsuccessful. All the things that attempted to control you have been revealed. All that attempted to devalue you has been destroyed. And you continue to stand, develop, and ascend into the fullness of your divine calling.